All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another installment of the monthly training session for LWIA staff on the virtual job fair tool. This morning will be a little bit different from our previous meetings. We don't have too much to report as far as updates that have been made since the last session. We do have some updates that are in progress that'll help the system with anything from registration, easier usage for our partners, employers, job seekers, and kind of the ability to track some of the metrics of visitors to employer booths and in the system and within each region. And we're working on those now, but we should have something to report, I believe, at the next session. But those updates are coming. They won't be all at once. They'll kind of be piecemeal because there's a lot of different great ideas that we've had through some of the different meetings we've had with different state agencies and participating partners. But this morning, we'll be going over this document that we kind of touched on, I believe, at the last session that just covers with LWIAs kind of engaging more with the virtual job fair tool, some of the different event types that have been held and the roles and responsibilities moving forward when we implement this process document that Daniel has up on the screen that he'll be going over with you shortly. And just to kind of, as a reminder, we do have this document. There's no firm date set in stone of when this is going to be the new process, but it will be soon. I can say that. And so I'd ask, in the meantime, if you've not already provided SIU staff with the point of contact for your LWIA's region for the virtual job fair, we would ask that you please do so, along with letting us know who the point person is for your social media channels as well. That way we can just coordinate with the main Illinois WorkNet social media channels and promote any events that you have upcoming to drive more traffic and job seekers to it. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Daniel to go over this table that he has up here on the screen. Daniel?
Thank you so much for that brief introduction, David. And again, welcome everyone to our session here today. Hope you all are having a wonderful day and a wonderful week. So as you see up on your screen here, we're just going to kind of go through the process for some of these VJF requests. A lot of this for folks who are familiar with the VJF tool or have held VJFs in their region. A lot of you might already be familiar with much of the things that are going to be covered in this document, but there are a few little changes that have been made. So again, as David already outlined and stated, we do not have a firm date set in stone yet as to when implementation of the new process is going to be rolled out. But again, just keep in the back of your mind that it is coming and that it is something that you all should kind of begin preparing for. So without further ado, we'll kind of delve right into this document here. As you can see up on the screen, the first topic that we have is single employer VJF requests. Again, a lot of this will be similar, but we'll just walk through it here real briefly. So you'll see the first item on your screen there is the single employer events, how they can be requested. You'll see there's two separate ways in which we can go about doing so. An employer can request a single employer VJF through the employer booth entry and approval process. Again, some of you may be familiar with that if you've had any sort of interaction or use with our employer booths on WorkNet. And then, of course, you'll see the second bullet point there. If an interested employer reaches out to SIU or the Red Team staff, that employer will be referred to the appropriate LWIA contact for further event coordination. Now here, again, this process may be somewhat familiar to you, but there is a little bit of a difference here. So we'll walk through that. The first point you'll see there is that LWIAs can request assistance from SIU staff, or they may choose to host the VJF event with the employer on their own. The second point there is obviously what's going to be probably different to you, and we will obviously go into that more in depth and more in detail as we work through this document. But circling back to that first point there, you see LWIAs do have the option to continue requesting assistance from the SIU staff. If we move down here on the document, you'll see under event coordination details, this is the process that is triggered if an LWIA requests assistance from SIU staff, excuse me. And again, much of that process you may already be familiar with, and much of it still is staying the same. But you'll see here, first part of this, SIU will create an event registration page on Eventbrite. We'll make sure to post it to our event calendar. We will help with social media promotion and marketing. We will provide Zoom training to the participating employers if it's requested or if it's necessary. We will also sit on that webinar to troubleshoot and provide technical assistance. Obviously, we'll give some brief opening remarks, give the lay of the land, so to speak, let folks know, how to use certain features on Zoom, what's going to be expected, how the flow of events is going to go. And then, of course, we record those events, we'll manage participants, and we'll also be recording the event. And then obviously post-event, we'll be uploading that recording to YouTube. And then last but not least there, you'll see the post-event follow-up. Again, through that Eventbrite registration page, we do have a tracking document that is auto-populated, if you will, when an individual registers for the event. All of that information that's captured, we obviously have in an Excel spreadsheet. We'll send that to all of the participating employers, or in this case, the employer. And we'll also provide that to the LWIA staff as well. And then last but not least there, you'll see that recording that we do make, if you will, and upload to Illinois WorkNet. That'll get uploaded to that employer's employer booth page. Now, as you'll see here is kind of a second part to that. We kind of have outlined, some of the responsibilities or deliverables that the LWIA will have to bring to the table moving forward. And you'll see here, just taking a more active role in communicating with employers. Obviously, we want to ensure that they have WorkNet accounts, that they have employer booth pages created. Moving forward, we would like whoever the designated LWIA contact is for virtual job fair to review and approve employer booth entries for the participating employer. It'll also kind of be a responsibility for the LWIA to ensure that the employer has PowerPoint slides for the event, and that if we are facilitating, we obviously being SIU, that those slides are provided to SIU, obviously in advance of the event. And then during the event, what's also going to be a little bit different now too, is that we will need LWIA staff or designated staff on that call. And they will be expected to kind of provide an opening and closing statement. We will, of course, still continue to give our kind of technical opening statement outlining, obviously what the process is going to be for operating the chat, mute, unmute, video, again, all of those technical things of Zoom that you all may be familiar with. It will also be now up to the LWIA to kind of drive that participant Q&A discussion. And then, of course, a big thing that we have done in the past too is trying to provide presentations on local resources and services that might be available to attendees. And as you'll see here, we have a few examples: work support, American Job Centers, so on and so forth. So if you do want to integrate information about local resources and tools that might be available for job seekers, again, that will fall onto the LWIA as well. Now, you'll see the second option there is kind of the new feature, if you will, that we want to try to implement or roll out. And that is, if you do choose to host and coordinate a VJF on your own without our assistance, you'll see there's kind of a process outlined there as well. And some of the things that you'd be responsible for if you do choose to go that option or that route. Obviously, again, you'll want to make sure that the employer booth is created and that it is approved by whoever that designated member of your staff is who's working VJF. Again, employer booth review and approval, that's part of that creation process. The LWIA will be responsible for creating a registration page if they decide to go this route. And then, of course, adding that entry into the WorkNet event calendar and tagging it under the virtual job fair series. in conjunction with SIU, obviously we want to make sure too that you're promoting and marketing your event pretty hard. Again, based off of experience, that can either make or break the success, if you will, of an event. So we do want to make sure that we're promoting these events hard moving forward. And obviously that we're coordinating with one another to make sure that we get the largest umbrella, if you will, as far as outreach is concerned. You will have to also, if you do decide to go this route, provide a platform in which to host and facilitate the VJF event. Obviously, SIU prefers to use Zoom, but if you prefer WebEx or any of the other, number of different, virtual event facilitators that are out there, you're more than willing to do, or more than able to do so, excuse me. Obviously, you'll also want to make sure that employers have those presentation materials. You would be providing event technical assistance and facilitation, again, normally what SIU has been doing. And then, of course, you'll want to make sure that if you do want a record of the event, you do want, job seekers to be able to go back and view that video if they're not able to attend, that you're recording the session and then putting a copy of that session or the link to that URL into the employer booth page so that folks can see it at a later date. And then obviously you'd be responsible for the post-event follow-up as well. So again, a lot of those duties that, SIU has been providing thus far. Obviously, if you choose to go forward without SIU assistance, those would be the things that you would be responsible for. So again, the takeaway here, to keep it short and sweet, if you do decide you want to start moving forward with events, without SIU assistance, all those things will have to be covered by your team. Regardless, moving forward, whether you request assistance from us or not, again, just making sure that a little bit more skin in the game, so to speak, is provided. Again, we want to make sure that we're pushing these events very hard when we get to that marketing and promotional piece or side of things, just so that, again, all of our efforts, so to speak, aren't in vain. We want to make sure that we get a lot of job seekers on these calls if at all possible. And of course, the ultimate goal here is to connect those job seekers with gainful employment opportunities as well. And again, if you all have any questions as I'm going through this, please feel free to enter those into the chat. And once we get, through this brief presentation here, of course, we'd be more than happy and willing to answer any questions that you do have. And if you give me one moment here. Okay, so this would be, as you see here, LWIA VJF requests. I do believe, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, this is in reference to the multi-employer events that we hold.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so we'll be going through this process here briefly too. And again, a lot of this is going to be the same as, was already outlined or covered in the single employer VJF request. So please bear with me here. But moving through these, we'll just go through these real briefly here. As you'll see, first point for LWIAs wishing to hold a VJF in the region, LWIAs should be in contact with a red team member to see what businesses may be hiring based on their access to layoff information and rapid response events. Again, just another good tool or resource, if you will, to utilize there. And obviously, the red team members have a lot of different resources at their disposal. Keeping in contact again with them is just going to make these events not only go off without a hitch, but make sure that they're reaching, the target audience that we're seeking. Again, moving forward with the multi-employer requests, we do want to emphasize that LWIAs will be responsible for identifying businesses in the area who are hiring, and obviously want to make sure that those requests are accommodated. And then again, as stated in the single employer VJF section, the LWIA staff will work with the employers to get employer booths entered into the VJF system if they do not already have one. Once those steps have been completed, then we would encourage you, if you do want SIU to assist, you approach us at that point, and we can begin kind of the nuts and bolts facilitation of that multi-employer event. But above that, those 3 points that were outlined, again, that's just kind of, think of it like the pre-event work that needs to be done, or footwork, if you will, before we kind of get into, again, the nuts and bolts facilitation of the event. Those are some of the minimum things that we would like to see implemented moving forward, just to streamline processes as much as possible. And again, we'll walk through this, but much of it is similar, if you will. You'll see if an LWIA requests assistance from SIU staff, SIU will, again, create an Eventbrite registration page. We'll create an Illinois WorkNet event calendar entry. Again, schedule social media posts in conjunction with your organizations. Provide Zoom training or a dry run in the case of a lot of our multi-employer events. Obviously, technical assistance and troubleshooting during the event. Obviously, as you'll see here, participant management, recording, so on and so forth. And then again, we would provide that post-event follow-up if you request assistance from us as well. Again, just want to emphasize here, if you do request assistance from us, just want to make sure, again, that all partners, we all kind of have equal skin in the game, so to speak here. So as you'll see here, it will fall on the LWIA if you do request assistance from SIU to communicate with those employers, obviously following up frequently to ensure that they have either a WorkNet account created or their employer booth page created. And if they do not, that we get those done ASAP. Again, whoever your designated VJF contact will be, they will want to review and approve that employer booth entry for each participating employer. You'll want to follow up with those employers again to make sure that they have those PowerPoint slides for the event and that those slides are provided to us well in advance so we can get our master document together. And then again, there during the event, moving forward, we want the LWIA staff to, start providing a little bit more as far as opening and closing remarks for the event, facilitating again the Q&A portion, and then also, if applicable, sharing information about local resources and services that are available, obviously in your LWIA for job seekers. Now, again, here, I know we're kind of belaboring this point, but the new part of this too, if you do decide you want to move forward and, host and coordinate your own multi-employer VJF without SIU assistance, again, all of those things that we just covered would then, technically speaking, fall onto the LWIA to be responsible for. So again, employer booth creation, review and approval, event registration, event calendar entry, social media, and we will still work with you, obviously, as far as social media is concerned. In coordinating to market and promote those events. Again, you'll want to choose which platform that you'd want to use to host and facilitate the event. Make sure that employers have presentation materials. Provide the event technical assistance and facilitation. Obviously, if you choose to record the event, upload that to the respective employer booths for the employers who will be participating on that multi-employer event. And then conducting post-event follow-up as well. So that's kind of the process, in a nutshell, if you will, that we will be using moving forward. Again, we don't have a firm date as far as rollout and implementation is concerned. But again, it's something that obviously we would highly encourage all of you to kind of begin planning and preparing for as we move forward. David, is there anything else that you'd like to include that perhaps I might have overlooked?
No, I think that covers it for the document for now, Daniel. Thank you very much for that. And again, to kind of just, reiterate that, we're not just going to say, here's the process, good luck, run with it. Daniel and I, we're going to be here to help answer any questions you have, whether it's a technical standpoint or best practices, or you're not really sure about one part of the virtual job fair system. We're here to help. We're not just gonna, let you run wild, without any guidance. And, we will, update, our instructions and documents and the site and the system itself to, make sure it makes sense for everybody. So yeah, I don't know if there are any questions about this process, the document, the virtual job fair, or any questions you might have about this.
And again, the point that I think we want to try to drive home, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the primary reason why I think this topic has come up and why we want to implement this moving forward, obviously is not to penalize you folks or anything like that. The point is to increase our capacity with VJF. As you guys know, right now at SIU, it's kind of a two-man team here. And, what we're noticing is that our requests are kind of beginning to outpace our capabilities. So we just want to make sure that we're not having to turn away employers or that we're not having to turn away event requests. We want to make sure that we can facilitate all of these events. And again, having you guys take a more active role and get on board is just going to, again, increase, that overall capacity and allow us to really continue to scale this tool as we move forward kind of in this new virtual world or space that we're operating in. So again, that's a primary reason or focus why we are seeking to do this.
Absolutely, Daniel.
And of course, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask those and we will get those answered for you. And David, I think you did put something in the chat. And I don't know if this document is ready to go 110% yet, but is there a link where the LWIAs can access this document so they're clear moving forward, kind of the things we outlined here today?
Yeah, so like you're right, Daniel, that the document isn't, completely finalized. I think what we can do is, at least for now, and let me make a note of this, is we can take a big portion of this document, such as that identifies the different roles and responsibilities for the different events, different event types. We can add them to that partner page. I believe, in case some joined after this was sent, let me share it again. So not only will a recording of this morning's session be posted here, but we'll also, post that portions of this document here that outlines the different roles and responsibilities about this. And we will send out an email today that will, for those who are, unable to attend, that this recording, this document, can be viewed on this page, and, making that ask again to identify, for your LWIA, the point of contact for, virtual job fairs, putting them together and having access to the tool, as well as a social media lead. That way we can coordinate our efforts to really promote the event as much as possible.
And David, looks like we did get a few questions in the chat. I can take the first one, but we did get a second question there about outcome-based data. I do believe, isn't that something that you're wanting to implement in kind of the new VJF updates that are going to be rolled out?
Yes, so part of the updates that'll come out will include a section for post-event follow-up. And this would be conducted by the LWIA staff, and you can follow up with the participating employers of an event to see how many hires took place as a result of that event. And you'll also have the ability to view the registration information and those who attended the event, so that if you're you can reach out to the employer, but you can also reach out to the job seekers themselves. But again, that's something that's coming in the near future. We don't have anything at the moment about that outcome data.
Awesome. Thank you for that, David. And we did get another question in the chat regarding training for this process moving forward. I don't know if there's any insight that you can provide for folks there.
Yeah, so what we can do is for, absolutely, we can, provide training facilitated VJF without assistance. Yeah, we can, let you know, kind of what that process looks like for, what would be needed on, Illinois WorkNet to, capture that, event information that you're holding without our assistance, and putting it on WorkNet so that it is visible and that, we can all view the event information in one space. And I think what we can do is certainly at our next session, we can, or we can have an additional session maybe, but we can have a session where, we would say, we'll walk through the process of this is what it looks like if you request assistance with SIU, and then this is, what the process looks like without assistance, the things that you would do it. Because I know we kind of went through this list here, but I think, for the sake of time, I'm not sure we'd be able to cover both avenues this morning, but certainly at our next meeting we can, and maybe even in the meantime we could, have a recording where we walk through the screens on Illinois WorkNet to show you, what exactly, through these bullet points here on this document, what exactly that looks like.
Excellent. Thank you for that, David. And I do agree. I think that could definitely be a topic maybe for our next session. And of course, we do want to schedule something in the meantime. We absolutely can. But yeah, we can definitely, go through the process literally from start to finish, show you guys exactly, what it is, so to speak, that we do on our end to facilitate these events, get them scheduled, get them marketed, so to speak, if you will. We can definitely outline that process as well. And then I did see a question in the chat as well. What is the best way to get started in creating an employer booth? So it's kind of a three-step process. Let me give me one moment here. So again, for employers, we want to be sure that they first have a WorkNet account. And if they do not, they'll click the sign up tab here. And you'll see here all these required fields where there's a red asterisk. They'll fill those out. Once they have filled those out, reviewed them for their accuracy, click the accept agreement for terms and conditions and submit. Theoretically, at that point, they should have a live WorkNet account ready to go. The second step in doing so will be going to this virtual job fair section here, clicking that set up virtual job fair tab. And then literally the first tab you see when you get on this page is this add booth tab. And when you click on that, again, this is all that information that is in the employer booth. You'll see here, again, anything where there's a red asterisk will, have to be sure that that information is filled out. You'll go through each of these fields here, make sure that they're filling them out accurately. And once they have done so, obviously, again, reviewed it for accuracy, they'll click the Save and Submit Employer Booth tab here. Once that has occurred, we will get a notification on our end that a new employer booth has been submitted. And we'll, at that point, review it for its accuracy. And then, assuming that everything passes muster, we'll click Approve, and the employer booth will be live at that point. Now, kind of circling back to the process doc here, again, that's a process that we want LWIAs to start doing. So, if you do not have a point person or a contact who's designated, again, over VJF, please reach out to us with that individual. We'll make sure, obviously, to cover that process more in depth during that training that we'll hold. That way they know how to go ahead and review and approve employer booth requests that do come into WorkNet. But that is just, kind of an abbreviated version of that employer booth creation process. So hopefully that answered your question. And thank you so much for that, Marion. I see that comment in the chat there. Again, we are more than willing to meet with you all in a group setting, one-on-one basis if need be, to get you all, trained and up to speed, answer any questions that you have. You can always reach out to either myself or David, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with an answer to your question. And if we don't have an answer, of course, we'll loop in somebody that does have an answer. Yeah, again, I see that question there in the chat, why we are implementing this new process. Again, in a nutshell, our kind of demand, if you will, is beginning to outpace our capacity. And so what we want to do is loop in the LWIAs to kind of assist with that process and make sure, again, that we're not having to turn away employers because, we're limited by essentially David and I's capacity to hold the events. We want to make sure that we're able to continue to facilitate these events, able to continue, connecting job seekers with employment opportunities. Obviously, also, there's a symbiotic relationship there as well. The employers are also getting, localized talent that, they need to fill the positions that they have vacancies for. So again, this is an effort, again, just to increase that overall capacity to make sure that we're able to meet the demand as this tool continues to scale larger and larger. So that, again, in a nutshell, is why we are implementing this process. Hopefully that answered your question. Any other questions? I am going to go ahead and put my email here in the chat. I don't know, David, if you can throw yours in there as well. I do believe all of you should have our emails, but if you don't, again, any questions that come up in the meantime, just please feel free to reach out to us and we are more than happy to get your questions answered. David, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add today, but I do believe that is all I have. Again, expect, I guess, our next session to kind of be that overview or that training process, walking folks through step by step what the process will look like.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. And you will receive a follow-up from us later today about kind of just summarizing meeting this morning and next steps in the next session, what that all will look like. I'm just taking a quick look here at some of the different pages to make sure there's not anything that we missed covering. Here. No, I do want to say though that just kind of a minor point that we are working on a FAQ page that we should have up very soon. That will outline whether it's a job seeker, an employer, or partners. That we're going to get those questions out there and make sure that you're aware of the FAQ page. That way, if you need to refer to it, for your own purposes, or if job seekers and employers have questions, it ranges from anything from how do I create a booth, how do I request assistance, how can I register for an event, those types of questions. We're in the process of creating that, and it's coming along really well. So that will be available very soon on the partner guide as well. And is there a question in the chat? No. Yeah, that's all I have. But again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Daniel and myself. Our email addresses are in the chat if you don't already have them. And again, we will be making a couple updates to the partner guide page, and once those are made, we'll send out an email so that you can review the document that's been shared this morning, as well as the recording of this session. And that email will also include the next steps. So if there's nothing else, I think we can conclude early this morning. So again, thank you all very much for attending this session, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks all.